Would you move to a new country filled with opportunity, even if it wasn't nice to new immigrants? I'm Christy in Canada, here to spill the tea on all things immigration. One random fun fact about me is that I hugged a meerkat in the streets of Japan. The full story in the end credits of this video. In today's video, I read a chapter from my book, Immigrating to Canada versus USA, just to find out which country is less open to newcomers, what support systems you actually have when you are here, and which country you won't fit into. Let's jump in with an immigrant story. Saoirse's story. Hoboken, New Jersey. Leaving my hometown of Kilkenny in Ireland to pursue stand-up in America may have been a joke to my family, but for me, it was the ultimate dream. They all asked, "Why don't you just go to London with the rest of the wannabe actors?" But I knew that if I could make it in America, it could translate to success worldwide. Plus, in America, my accent was a novelty. Bonus. So I made it to the States and started working the stand-up routines in whatever late-night cafe would take me. I was doing this for months while working my Survival Joe job in the daytime. I was starting to get some regular spots and even got chatting with a talent agent. She liked my work and enjoyed my point of view. I was just on the cusp of feeling like things were going to move my way when she asked, "What type of following do you have?" Let's be clear here. I didn't have a social media following. I wasn't planning on becoming internet famous. I wanted to be famous. The type of famous where I can afford to eat Taco Bell anytime I want, not because it's all I can afford. The agent smiles. She picks up her phone and pulls up a hugely popular comedian's social media account. She plays me his top reel and said, "This one. This is the reason he has a Netflix special." So it turns out internet fame counts for a lot. She told me to call her once I had my first 10,000 followers. No sweat, right? So I start making reels about my different routines. But the reels aren't getting many views. Like, none. And mostly it's my poor sister who's doing all the liking. Bless her soul. All except one. It's the bit where I talk about being Irish in America. I have struck my leprechaun's pot of gold. It's time to dig a little deeper. I decided to lean in heavily and create a whole routine about it. I poke a little fun where I say being an immigrant in America is like being in an emotionally abusive relationship. And every time I go through Irish immigration and customs, they question me like it's a mental health check. "Mom, are you okay?" And I respond, "You just don't know him, America, the way I do." When I do the bit in real life, the laughs in the room are chef's kiss. The real version of it gets a lot of likes and views, but it also gets a lot of hate. Multiple people leave comments on the same vein with varying degrees of civility. That if you don't like it, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Things people would never say to me in person, they hurl over the internet. It's a damn comedy routine, and people are losing their minds. Just because I use humor to highlight what it's like to be an immigrant in America, it's as if I didn't say all the time how grateful I was to be in America and how wonderful it was that I wasn't worthy of being here. And I can't help but think to myself, I am literally from some of the palest people on the planet, and I'm told to shut up with such vitriol. What about anyone who doesn't look like me? Openness to newcomers. When it comes to the internet, you have to take the comments section with a grain of salt. As someone who runs an active YouTube channel, I have some really fun comments come my way. "Immigrants are leaving? Not fast enough. If things were so good in your home country, you wouldn't have left in the first place. Don't let the screen door hit ya." And although I believe that these are oftentimes people's most true and sometimes meanest musings, which they post from the comfort of an anonymous keyboard, I also don't think most people have the courage to say those things to my face. Real-life cowards, they give me hope. Real-life vitriol, that makes me uneasy. But I tell you this not to make myself feel better, but to heed a warning. People who have never gone through immigration can never know the toll that the journey has taken. And speaking your truth, and it is truth, about your immigration experience to them is like trying to feed books to fish. No matter how well-intentioned, the substance remains irrelevant in their aquatic world. Obviously, there are some people who are kind-hearted and truly care. Hold on to them and potentially marry them. But for many, it's just an experience that's so far removed that they can never really comprehend the all-encompassing, life-changing journey that is immigration. But what does the general public think of newcomers? Canada. Canada has the multicultural mosaic concept as its backbone to its immigration policy. This means that you're able to bring your culture into Canada and maintain it, celebrate it, while still holding on to your Canadian identity. This seems super positive, but it also comes with some issues. Sometimes in Canada, people get cloistered into their own cultural groups and not integrate as well. It also means that there's sometimes underlying hostility when people hold onto their cultural values and can't integrate with Canadian cultural values. You usually see this coming during an election season. The Conservatives, without fail, will do some whistleblowing, subtly alluding to racism or the old way of doing life, but never crossing the line. More so, often when the mosaic concept is stated, what Canadians really mean is that they want you to bring your delicious, culturally diverse food to a communal potluck. Your political leanings or philosophies on life should be left at the airport when you arrived. Beyond the philosophies of integration, Canada has a really strong newcomers program. In almost every community that you go into, you'll be able to find support from community services associations, churches, and government. All are set up to help bring a smoother transition to new Canadians into Canada. It's also worth noting that Canada has the US to the south and the west, and a whole lot of ocean surrounding it, so very little of its immigration is illegal border dashing. Not to say that it hasn't happened, but that it has made headlines when it did. It's worth noting that when people did cross on foot to the Canadian border, not all of it was met with the warm hug of Canadian Mountie holding a Tim Hortons double coffee to welcome its new people. USA. The USA's philosophy is often called the melting pot. While they welcome immigrants from all over the world, they also expect immigrants to adapt to the American way of life. And although the US has diverse immigrant communities, there's also a strong emphasis on assimilation to the American way. More so, there's less of a focused and overall support system for new immigrants. And, unfortunately, due to political influence from the right, there's been a narrative against immigrants, and often, quite frankly, a focus on immigrants who come without proper documentation. This, unfortunately, can make it a more overt, hostile environment. To be fair, Americans are also on the border with Mexico and South American countries, which makes it much more of a target for illegal immigration or foreign workers to cross the border. The gist. Your everyday Canadian and American are pretty open to immigrants. Please don't be utterly scared by my words. However, don't be naive either. But generally, the American media can get more riled up about illegal immigrants stealing jobs, and the American media definitely plays up this concept on repeat during the American election, which feels more like a year-long saga each time it happens. Unfortunately, some people can conflate illegal immigrants with all immigrants. As an immigrant, you will probably have more social support in Canada, but it's not like it's a fully fledged system that's going to help you every step of the way. Questions to ask yourself. I end all the chapters of my book with a set of questions that's supposed to help provoke thoughts and help you decide which option is best for you. If you want to, you can buy the book at the link down below, or fill out the submission form and I will send those questions to you. Back to the meerkat in Japan. My husband and I were busy walking through the streets and I saw this meerkat, and I have a deep affinity for meerkats as a South African. So I saw it saw me. It felt like a bit of a connection between the two of us because the streets were busy and I was just like, I didn't even think about it. Like, he was a meerkat. We was on a leash. And I knelt down and I looked at him and he looked at me and he kind of ran into my arms. And I held him and gave him a hug and cuddled. And I think I can find the picture. I'll post it over here. But it was a moment. I felt very connected to that meerkat pet in Japan.